Was this mine or yours?
Nelson. Testing, Nelson. Nelson, can you hear us okay?
What about now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome to our December board meeting. Today's date is the 13th of December, 2023, and we appreciate all who are in attendance. And we have board members Nan Barton, Colleen Benally, Steve Black, Lori Mon, Mary Shumway, Nelson Yelloman is virtual. Did I get everybody? And our Superintendent Fitzgerald and Business Administrator Tyrell Pemberton and other staff. So we appreciate you joining with us. So our first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. So if I can get a motion to approve the agenda. Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve today's agenda, Wednesday, December 13, 2013.
Okay.
Or 23, sorry.
23. And then do I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move to our San Juan Quest update. Superintendent.
All right, today I'll be highlighting the Quality Teacher Incentive Program, and the attachment shows the report that annually we give to the Native American Legislative Liaison Committee. This Quality Teacher Incentive Program, when it was initiated, goal number one was to provide the same level of experience and skill level in all of our elementary schools. So if you'll look at the chart, you can see that we've had significant growth in years of experience, and what we're tracking is 14 or more years of experience for teachers. So you can see significant improvements in our schools that have the Q-TIP program. So Montezuma Creek Elementary from 15% to 50, Savannah to Sky Elementary from 7% to 62, and Bluff Elementary from 0 to 20%. So that goal, we continue to increase that number and accomplish that each year. Goal 2 is to really increase efforts to attract and retain quality candidates to teach in our 6 River Region schools. And what this looks like is signing bonuses ranging from $1,500 to $5,000 to new hires for elementary as we're recruiting, and to high-needs secondary teachers, so those core content areas. And then also retention bonuses to non-Q-TIP elementary teachers and non-Q-TIP secondary core teachers. Our third goal was really to grow our own teaching pool, to say how do we have this pipeline to teachers, and that original part of this program was 4 teachers who completed their program and are still working for us at this time. So it's an exciting being able to retain them and have teachers in our schools. We currently have a program with our Native Youth Grant that's paraprofessionals, and a paraprofessional to teacher certification program. And we have 10 paraprofessionals currently working for us who have applied for that program. They haven't all started the program yet with USU, but they have completed that initial step to get into that program. So that's an exciting next step. While that's not funded by Q-TIP, it aligns with this initiative. So I wanted to highlight that as well. The other thing is just the additional outcomes. When you think about the percentage of Native American teachers, this Q-TIP program has increased that number as well, and you can see that data on that last chart. So this is an exciting program that we receive funding from the legislature every year to support this program, and so just wanted to highlight how we're accomplishing those goals with that funding.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I do. Was housing one of the issues in order to recruit? I know that's always something that...
I think that's been a long-term issue, which has been addressed by the board through the housing that we have, and continue to, care for that housing and improve the housing that we have.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you for that report. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Since you brought up the housing, I would like to have the housing on one of our future board agendas. It doesn't necessarily have to be January or February, but we should have it on annually. In the past, we used to be updated on the housing, the condition of it, what some of the problems are with tenants, pets, destruction. maybe unnecessary expenses that we have, those types of things that, you know, we could possibly, that have been discussed to mitigate some of the problems, and board just, you know, be informed maybe and give input on some of the problems there, because I don't think we've done that for a very long time.
Okay. You've got that. Okay.
Yep. have
I
it noted.
do have another question.
Sure.
Has the amount of Native teachers improved the morale or environment? I mean, you can see from here, there's a going up in the percentage in the river region schools. I mean, is that something that helps to benefit or helps to contribute?
I think there's multiple benefits. I mean, the research shows benefits for students who are, have teachers and staff members that they can relate to, so that's a component of that, particularly culturally. I think also as we have been able to hire more Native teachers, there's more teachers who speak the language and understand, you know, the parents and the community. And then really for the purpose of this grant, we're looking really at recruitment and retention. So again, that is part of that outcome, is we're able to have a longer retention when someone lives in the community, has family in the community, you know, they want to be in the community. So that is definitely, you know, while that wasn't one of our goals, that's been one of the positive outcomes, and it relates to the initiative in that way.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move to our board discussion items. Our first one is our audit report. We have Ryan and Doug Rasmussen with us. You guys can hear us correctly? Or, I mean, you can hear us okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Awesome.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and letting us do this through Zoom. So not that we wouldn't love to travel to Blanding. I have family in Blanding. But yeah, I just want to first say thank you, board, for having us, and also want a big shout out to Tyrell and Jennifer for their work that they do and helping us do our work so we can be proficient in our auditing and to complete the work on a timely schedule. But we'll start this by giving our opinion, which, do you guys have those reports?
Yes.
Perfect. So on page 1 of that report is our independent auditor's opinion. In that second paragraph, just going to read it verbatim. It states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the San Juan School District as of June 30th, 2023, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So to kind of summarize that up, that just means you guys have a clean audit and everything from what we did in our procedures. You guys had an unqualified opinion, which is almost like a backwards way of saying that everything was good. We have the management discussion and analysis, which you can see on page 4. I'm not really going to go through all of this or any of it, because this is just some very basic information for the general public to kind of understand the activities that are happening in the financials of San Juan School District, which is comprised from page 4 to 12. But I will start getting into the financials on page 15. This kind of gives a better idea of everything that is happening within the school district. As you can see, there's 3 major categories on this page: the general fund, capital projects fund, building reserves, and then you have some special reserve funds that are all combined together as other governmental funds. As you can see here, just kind of basically go over everything. The general fund does have an unassigned amount of $16,600,014 and some change. This is your day-to-day operations. That is slightly what I would consider kind of free use that helps the district fund every aspect for like salaries and everything else. So you guys do have a good set amount there. On page 17, this continues on. This shows the revenue and expenditures of the district. And as you can see here, the total revenues in the governmental funds, we have an amount of 70 million and some change sitting in there. And then we have a total expenditures that amount to $54,395,902. We have some transfers in and out, but overall, and the excess of revenues and other sources, we have an excess of revenues of $15,374,933. So in total, the fund balances did increase by that amount overall for the district. If you guys want some light reading, or if you're having really struggle falling asleep, I can suggest you read pages 25 through 59. This is the notes to the financial statement. This goes over policies, and this gives a more in-depth of the financials for San Juan School District. And if you don't believe me, that will put you to sleep in 5 minutes. Test me on it and start reading. We're going to skip all of that. We're going to turn to page 60. 60 is your changes in fund balance with the budget to actual of the general fund. So this is something that we are required to go over. But you guys do budget for this, and with the revenues, kind of had an unfavorable budget of only 1.5 million and some change. Something to really look at is your total expenditures. And you guys budgeted 53 million and some change, and your actual amount of expenditures was only 48 million and some change. So you guys did follow the state compliance rules on that and stayed within budget and did not overexpend. And if you guys do have any questions, please stop me at any time. If you don't understand something or if you want me to go over something else. We continue on page 68. Page 68 starts with our independent auditor's report on internal controls of San Juan School District. When we go over this, just that last paragraph I'm just going to read. It does state, given these limitations during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be any material weaknesses. And on that next page, this is just part of the report on compliance and other matters, and as part of obtaining reasonable assurance about whether the district's financial statements are free from material misstatements, we perform tests of its compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts and grant agreements, and so forth. But the last part of that, we do state that the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. Very next page, page 70. This is our single audit report that we give our opinion on. The district does receive federal money that we do have to do reporting on if there's an expenditures of over $750,000. And when we did our single audits, this is our opinion on it. On that second paragraph of page 70, in our opinion, San Juan School District complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs for the year ended June 30th, 2023. So that's once again giving you guys a clear opinion that you pass with flying colors on your single audit. If you want to see the expenditures for the single audit, you can see those on page 73 and 74. And you can also see on page 76 the single audits that we covered and did our testing with our audits. Last thing I wanted to cover with you is the independent auditor's report on state compliance, which you can find on page 78. Page 78, in the bulletin, it says opinion on compliance. I'll state, in our opinion, San Juan School District complied in all material respects with the state compliance requirements referred to above for the year ended June 30th, 2023. Which I'll give Tyrell and Jennifer another pat on the back. They do a really good job in making sure that the school district does stay within compliance with the state requirements in those areas that we had audited as part of our audit with the school district. And that basically covers everything that I wanted to discuss with you. Does anybody have any questions for me or Doug that's behind me? He's the head honcho, so if you're going to attack him, go ahead.
I am incognito over here, trying to stay out of the picture.
You're doing a good job at it.
I have a question. I always have to say if I remember correctly, because sometimes I don't. But when we've had audit reports in the past, if I remember correctly, there's been discussion or some reference to our non-governmental funds, our media center and our housing. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yep. So we can find those, I believe, yep, on page 19. Page 19 and page 20 and 21 go over all of the business type activities for the school district. Rental units, we have the non-major business type, which is really only one area, which is the media center. All in all, for the rental units, you do have net investment in capital assets, restricted funds, and unrestricted funds in there. And you have a total net position of $5,991,000. Net investment capital assets, that's all the buildings that you guys have, any renovations that are in there and the land that is included with that. Page 20, this really goes over everything that's happening in those areas. You got your charges for services in your rental units and your media center. Page 21 gives you the full outcome. Your rental units would have had a loss of operating of total net income. But there is a transfer that does come in from the capital projects fund. But all in all, total net income for both of these areas of the rental units and the media center was an increase of $144,963.
Okay. So to clarify, without that transfer, what we're charging for rent and the expenses that we have there, we're losing money, but just transferring from income from, or actually, tax dollars income is, okay.
Correct.
That's good information to know, and
We have also, for years and years, we've done that transfer of $300,000 to cover the cost of depreciation.
okay.
So if you look at, I think it's page 20, you'll see the depreciation expense there. That's $237,000. And so that 300,000 helps with operating, because it would show the operating loss with the depreciation expense. But that's to help cover that depreciation expense that's on all those rental units. So we've done that for years and years to help cover the cost of depreciation.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. What Tyrell has said is accurate. If you want a more accurate of what's happening with cash inside of those, turn to page 22. That shows you your net increase in cash and cash equivalents. So rental units really had a cash increase of $307,427. And that gives you a better outline of what is, whether there's a going concern with those areas
Okay.
in those business type activities.
So, quick question on, my pages on my digital don't line up with what we're looking at. So I'm gonna.
So you would be page 25 on your PDF.
Okay, so I'm actually want to look at page 10 on the PDF. And let's see. Yes.
So
No,
page 10 in your MD&A.
nope, that's not it. It's the San Juan School District's net position, and then it shows governmental business type, and then there's a few paragraphs below that.
Okay. So page.
know. Oh, yep,
I
that's
believe
it.
That's page 7.
That's it right there. Yes, Aaron. So what page is that? 7. So can you just explain real quick? So long-term liabilities outstanding, we had them in 22, and then we moved over to 23. Obviously, we have nothing under other in 22, but we do in 23. Do you see that line I'm looking at?
Let's see.
About the middle of the page?
So are we talking about in the business type activities?
Yes, yes.
That 109,329.
So we didn't, I assume we didn't have any other in 2022, but we do
Correct.
in 2023?
That has to deal more than likely, and I'd have to re-dive back into it, probably with your pension, with your GASB, we call it GASB 68, it's your pension.
Retirement system.
Yeah, your URS retirement system. In 2022, because of COVID, they really had zero liabilities in regards to your URS retirement. But that really did change it. They kind of had a flip in the 2023 year, which is why you see that 109,000 of a liability in there. That's nothing that the district really has any concern with, as long as you make your URS payments.
Okay.
That liability is just something that is reported as it's gathered for the entire state of Utah.
Okay.
This is really something that I think confuses most government organizations. The URS reporting and liability, you have no control over whatsoever. And that increases and it decreases depending on how the investments, if they increase or decrease, how they perform. So it can fluctuate. This last year, we had one entity that fluctuated over $12 million in their liability. And it has a startling impact on financial statements. So even though it has to be reported in your financial reports, we don't talk about it very much because it really distorts or can distort the financial statement presentation. So it's not something that is within your control. And so because of that, we don't spend an awful lot of time on that because it's not any decisions that you could have made that would have affected that liability with the URS.
So just look at it, but don't ask, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right.
Like I said, if you want to go to your notes of the financial on page 25 through 59, you can read all about your pension.
I read about some of it, yeah. So like you
There
said, I
is
fell
about
asleep.
probably 10 pages of URS reporting in your audit report.
Right. I did see that, but I thought, well, we've got kind of a hole in the numbers, and then all of a sudden we have them, so that was why I asked that. So, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have questions? Okay. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. I don't think there's any more questions, unless there's any more information you need to provide for us.
No, I think we covered everything.
We have a good book to read for the next year, so.
Yes.
And board, I would just interject one thing. If you do have any questions as you go through the audit report, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're open to answering and trying to get any of your questions resolved if you do have those. So, and again, as Ryan indicated, we certainly appreciate working for the school district. You have great individuals down that we're able to work with, and we certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Okay. And Tyrell, thank you, and thank your office also. We appreciate what they've done. And sounds like we're in good hands, so we appreciate it.
It's all over the place. The entire district helps make that a clean audit report. So
Sure.
from
But thank you very
from
much.
everyone.
Okay, we will move to our CTE stakeholder survey. Mrs. Grover.
Hello. We would just like to present to you the survey that was sent to you all previously and ask for us to be able to allow our students to take, our secondary students to take that CTE survey in their schools. The big picture of this, we're in a CTE consortium with USU, Blanding, Price, and Moab, and Carbon, Grand, Emory, and us. So all of us work together to help support our CTE programs in all of our schools. Part of our Perkins federal funding requires a comprehensive local needs assessment, which is conducted every 4 years. And the data from this survey from our students is just one small piece of that data, but it is used to help guide and direct our CTE programs in our schools, not just in our district, but in our whole southeastern region. Along with this survey, there are 3 others. One is for business and industry, one is for government and state agencies, and then one is for school personnel and teachers that will go out. But we would like to be able to make sure that we're doing the very best we can for our students and for our communities and our local businesses and industries, and this would help us do that. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
I have a question. Does every student take it? Is it taken, first hour, or do the CTE students take it? I may have missed that.
We would like all secondary students to take it, not just our CTE students, because if there are students who aren't enrolled in a CTE class, we want to know why they're not and ways that we can help them.
Okay.
So it would be ideal to have all of our students take it, secondary
Okay,
students.
so it's just all taken at the same time? I mean, goes out to every single
yeah, we
class?
would work
Or is
with-
it online, or do they take it in
No,
class?
It's online, but we would work with the schools to have it all administered very strategically, so
At
we
the
knew
same
that the
time.
students were taking it, yeah.
And it doesn't look like, it's not a long survey, doesn't take a long time, and we have long class periods. But yeah, I think that's my only question.
So who writes the survey questions? Where did
This was,
originally-
this was written by the Utah State Board of Education CTE department.
Okay. So, I don't want to be the complainer in the group. I thought it was a little bit lengthy, and I'm thinking, I know that we need to do it, and I know you need the information, but I thought after about page 4, I'd probably be going, I'm done. But that's why I was curious as to who wrote the survey and where it actually came from.
And it is, in the past, they've had a survey that was different for students versus the family and community surveys, but this
Sure.
year they've all been combined, and I think that
That's probably right.
contributes to the length of that.
Sure, okay. All right, any more questions for her?
I do, right here on element 1, student performance, the element evaluates student performance in CTE program, a study including special populations, but special populations meaning, like us, I'm pretty sure we're always qualified or put in that little box of special population.
So there are 9 special populations defined in Perkins and federal funding.
Okay.
Native American is one of those populations, but it also includes children of veterans, our homeless population, students with disabilities. There's 9 different subcategories for that.
Okay. And then I had my son take it. He had a lot of disagreements, which means I don't know if they're reaching fully into the schools or if what's available in Carbon is not the same available in San Juan at, say, Whitehorse High School, or is that also one of the issues that's going on? Looking at it, and I had him do this morning, and a lot of it was disagree, strongly disagree, or a lot unavailable.
And that's one big piece of this, is we find out where the discord is
Right.
amongst us all. But even, so the CT programs available in our whole Southeastern Consortium are different versus the state are different. And even within our own district, from each school is different. And a lot of that has to do with teacher availability and the industry that kind of drives each community. And so we do have different programs in every one of our schools. So but these surveys help us see those gaps and see what we need to do to better educate our students about their opportunities.
Right, and that definitely contributed because we went to school here in San Juan, transferred to Whitehorse, and they didn't have the same thing available to them, so.
There's different programs in all of our schools.
And that's based on the teacher, whether they're available or that that can provide that
There's
program?
a lot of different elements
Okay.
that play into that, but that teacher availability is a huge one. You know, we just lost a CAD and engineering teacher at Whitehorse, and that specific program is going to be very, very difficult to replace. But if we have a teacher that maybe is a FACS teacher and can bring in a food and science program, then that's what we'll work with, because that's what we have. Or if these surveys show that really industry needs different programs, then we start working with our industry partners. That's why the electromechanical programs at Whitehorse High School are going so strong right now, is because industry has said, you know, we need this program and we need our students educated and prepared to enter the workforce here, so.
Okay. And how would we fill those positions? Are we recruiting? Are we, I know I've got like a million questions. I'm so sorry.
Nope, it's fine. We do a lot of recruiting. I've been on the phone with a lot of college prep programs, looking even for student teachers who could come down and do their student teaching here and hopefully decide to stay and like it here. We do a lot of talking with just our college programs to say, hey, we have these openings. Do you have any students prepared to enter the workforce? We actually just had a call from someone in Tennessee who's interested in coming. So we do all we can to get people here. But interestingly enough, one of our programs that is just beginning, and it's available distance-wide or school-wide through our distance education program, is a teacher education program to help our students become teachers. So we're trying to start growing our own here right now.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Another question or clarification. If you'll just talk about how the funding works for CTE, because the better the programs, the more funding, right? If you'll,
Yes.
you'll explain it much better than I will in this.
So our CTE program comes from two different pots. We have a federal pot, which is the Perkins funding, and that's what this survey is all related to. And then we have state funding, and that state funding is fully driven student enrollment in our CTE programs, in the amount of students who take and pass our skill certifications, the amount of industry certifications that are earned, the amount of students that are in our CTSO programs. So, yeah, the better programs and more filled programs we have, the more money we get to support our programs.
Okay, and is that separated out? Is it we get funding for taking the course and additional money for passing the course, or getting, okay.
Yes.
So we get money both ways, but when they're all passing, then it's more money, and the more successful the program, the more kids we have enrolled, the bigger, and then it snowballs,
Yes,
right? Or
yes.
hopefully, and.
Hopefully it's a really great cycle.
They're- I mean, they're great opportunities for our kids to have to either just prepare for the workplace right in high school or prepare for more preparation, but
Yes.
it fills such a vital role for students that just meets those needs that some kids don't, that's their niche.
Yeah.
And
And CTE has really evolved from a voc ag stigma that, oh, it's the kids who can't pass this and can't pass this. And really, CTE is for everyone. And there is a lot of data that shows our students who are in our CTE classes find more relevance in school and want to be in school and have better scores in all of their proficiency rates, like in English and math and language arts. Like it gives them some relevancy to be in the classroom, and so
Right.
it really helps the school as a whole and not just our CTE programs.
yeah, full
Yes.
education that, like you said, relevance is the key word there.
It really is, especially for those kids, yeah.
Thank you. We hear great things about your program, so appreciate your work
We
and
have
those that
great
work
teachers
with
doing
you,
good
so.
things. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll turn the time over to the superintendent for our school safety initiatives.
All right, so the purpose of really this presentation is to really highlight what we're already doing in the area of school safety and ongoing initiatives, potential legislation that would be impactful for San Juan School District, and making sure the board is informed of that upcoming proposed legislation, and really kind of a contextual summary of some of the considerations that are particular to San Juan School District as we're moving forward. So I just want to start with what we are doing. So some of the things that have been implemented and that we're working on currently is our standard response protocol. This was part of House Bill 61 to move across the state, not only for schools, but eventually in all government agencies to have the same standard response protocol. So no matter what government building you're in and something occurs, that everyone has the same languages and using the same processes. So this has been rolled out in our schools and currently is what's being used. We also have had all of our principals attend the CSTAG training, which is the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines. And so this is a system that we're putting in place, and we're in the process of implementing this throughout all of our schools as part of that initial assessment. And really what it's looking at is to say, what type of threat is this? Is this a substantive threat, or is this a transient threat? So that, just because a student makes a threat, does that mean it really is a credible threat? So that whole system has been put in place, and that's also been part of House Bill 61. And then expanding our Navigate Prepared training, which is our digital tool that allows us to track students in an incident, notify those involved through their cell phone, through a device, through an app. And we've expanded this to working on our district staff. We've worked on schools and continue to support them, but really saying we have lots of staff members that are in our school buildings, so making sure they're trained and understand these same protocols. So if they're in a building at the time an incident occurs, that they also understand what that looks like. And then really tightening down some of our protocols that we've found that need tightening down, like transportation, working better with our SIS system and informing transportation and being able to improve security with other departments, improving our communication protocols. And then we also received the House Bill 61 grant for our key card access system. So that will be occurring in all of our buildings, that we'll be adding a key card access system for our exterior doors. So that's a safety improvement that we will see coming, and that's a really exciting to be able to get that funding and move towards that in our district. And then we also had our architects looking at our 4 buildings that we have funding for securing the entryways. We have buildings that structurally it's difficult to have a secure entrance. So they're working on that. We'll see that moving forward for those 4 schools. And then in process right now is really looking at reunification. What is our reunification process? On the proposed amendments for House Bill 61 is did the state also move towards a common reunification process for all schools? So we are looking at using a process that most likely will be the one the state chooses, and are starting to implement that and working with our schools on that as well. And then really working with our public safety division. So really getting their feedback and input, which includes, we have an SRO now in Blanding this year, supporting those 3 schools. So as part of that, we've invited our public safety officers here who are going to share some information with you. We'll start with Chief Bradford, who's going to kind of give you an update. This isn't really meant to give you a whole update on SRO, but at least let you know where we're at with this new initiative with the SRO in our 3 schools in Blanding. And then Sheriff Lacey will provide insights into the challenges with the House Bill 61 proposed amendments for the schools, particularly in the River region, and then options for Monticello and Bluff. Really these amendments they're proposing give a lot of duties to the sheriff in each county, and aligning their work with the school district. So this is a really important partnership as these amendments move forward. So Sheriff Lacey will speak to that. And then Sergeant Taylor will address the current agreements that they have with Navajo Nation and Highway Patrol, and the challenges with acquiring a similar agreement for the purpose of SROs, and address any other communication challenges that we have with River Region schools. And overall incident command, with an incident we had, he was incident command for that incident as the Highway Patrol because he had that agreement. So he'll speak a little bit to that. So with that, we'd like to thank all 3 of them for being here, and invite Chief Bradford to come up and address the board.
Good afternoon. I could probably just say our SRO program is going great and sit down about it, but it has worked out really well. The partnership that the city of Blanding and the 3 schools here in Blanding have come together with has made a huge impact on our schools. Every angle I've been able to talk about, and talking with the principals, the students, I've only received positive feedback from the program we've had. So far for this year, Officer Palmer, who's in the schools, he's pulled 16 cases, ranging drugs, assaults, disorderly conduct, just officer information, writing a report for an incident that's taken place, but really no action has had to been taken on his part, but last year, I responded to the school and had 35 calls. Just myself working the day shift, and Officer Palmer having him in the school, I think he's cutting those down and taking a load off of those of us that are out on the, trying to take care of other assignments or on other calls. It's been, I think, hugely successful. But having an officer in the school, he's been able to build relationships with students who really don't have positive outlook towards law enforcement, either from past experience or what they find on social media, things that way. So he's building a lot of bridges with these students who have the negative views. Turn over my page here so I don't get lost. Like I said, when I've talked with the principals, I've had just really positive responses with everybody. I walk through the halls occasionally with Officer Palmer, and the kids just come up to him. They're high-fiving him. They're the ones initiating contact and conversations. It's just been, I think, hugely successful. I know as a former SRO myself, the benefit of it, and it changes lives having kids there, or having officers there with the kids. It's just good. I don't know what to say other than it's been extremely successful from my point of view, and it's helped out not only the schools, but the Blanding City Police. We haven't had to drop a call we're on to go take care of something at the schools because we've already got someone in place. Response times to calls in the schools have been cut drastically. So, do you have any questions or anything I may have missed?
Any questions? Colleen, did you have some? You could start.
I do have a question.
All right, ahead.
With speaking with the negative view part of it, you haven't had any complaints of the SRO yet or at all?
I've not had anyone come to me and complain about him.
Okay. As not to say that there might be or that there is, or are we going off of the
As
basis
far as I know,
that that's
everybody's
not?
pretty happy with it.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And are the number of incidents, or I don't think you called it incidents, but were they more at the first of the year and they're less and less now, or they're just kind of half of what they were last
I
year?
would say they're more at the first of the year. We do some things that create those incidents ourselves. We had canines come in. We contacted the Highway Patrol and they brought some of their dogs, and that's going to generate a few case numbers because, if a dog alerts on something, we have to pull a case number and document what we've done. So just having him in the school creates some cases that might
Find some of
skew your
those.
data a little bit just because he's there and he's creating stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's proactive and he's there finding things to deal with. But I think having him there is also stopping a lot from taking place.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to say I saw the news article about him and the positive things in the community, and I think it's awesome to be able to be in the news for something positive, and I do what I hear is positive. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think, speaking to that, the kids in that news article, you can see them high-fiving him and talking to him, and they just tell the reporter, we feel so much safer here and we feel like he loves us. So I thought that was pretty big to get a kid to say that.
So quick question. So obviously he goes with all three schools.
Yes.
So have you had incidents in the elementary or the junior high? Or is it just because we think, oh, maybe we don't have so many because it's elementary, but
We've
have
had
things come up
incidents. I don't know
that have
that
been
he's actually.
prevented?
There's been a couple real minor things at the elementary school where he just goes and settles a kid down that maybe just having a bad day and
Okay.
going off. But we've had, he was there on 2 different occasions, one at the high school, one at the middle school, where he watched a fight start and was able to stop it before it got
Nice.
way out of hand.
Okay, thank you.
Very positive in my opinion.
Great. Okay, you ready?
All right.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to talk about the bill that's going to be proposed. So there's some key provisions, an armed school security officer, which is, there's 4 options for the school district and to take place as a school resource officer, where it's a state certified officer that will be in the school, such as Officer Palmer. The second one is a school safety and security officer. This is a former law enforcement officer hired by the school, trained and certified under the Peace Officers Standard Training Act. So they have to be post-certified before and then be able to go back into the school. And then school guardian is a volunteer school employee who participates in the required training. The guardian may not be a principal, teacher, or other person that works with the students. And then contract security guard, you contract with a security agency. So the county's responsibility is to get a county security chief that will work with the state security chief. And they'll go over the architectural part of the buildings, make sure that they're safe entryways, and go through that component of it. We'll oversee the training if the other 3, that's not an SRO. The other 3, make sure those individuals are going through the training necessary, the background checks, to get that in place, keep those guys certified and do what they need to do for those. The main issue that we have is state law doesn't apply on the Navajo reservation as much as we would like it to. It just does not apply. We're having a meeting tomorrow with sheriffs to talk about some of this issue too. I wish it was before today, but it had to be tomorrow. So the issue right now is it going to be Navajo Nation's responsibility to provide an SRO or the school district to get one of those other 3 options in those schools on the reservation. So with that in mind, we, as a county, I don't want to put the liability on you guys or the county or the state or the officer that is taxed with that, because if you put the wrong person inside the school and not trained or whatever, we'll have some issues with liability on that. So those are my main issues, is the school and the state and the county would be in trouble if we get the wrong person in those schools. So, any questions for me?
Can you speak a little bit to the thoughts if this moves forward and, it's possible, we've been told there's possibly a fiscal note to these proposed amendments. So if that moved forward, what that looks like for Monticello and for Bluff?
So I haven't seen a number on the fiscal part of it yet. I have asked the county administrator to get another officer that would be that county security chief and go from there. So I don't know I haven't seen the number on how much it is going to be and how much we would get as San Juan County.
So who makes that final decision at that meeting tomorrow? Or is it just to
So-
throw around the ideas?
So this is just all the sheriffs.
Okay,
We're going to talk about it and some issues that we have with the bill. It's kind of, there's some gray areas in the bill and a lot of responsibilities getting put on us as like Blanding City has an SRO. Do we take over that position? Do we have to cover that position? I know Taylorsville and a couple other city chiefs have been pushing not against the bill, but
Sure.
some of the language in the bill. I support the bill 100%. We definitely have to have someone in the school to protect the kids in those schools, but the options with what they're proposing right now, the sheriffs and the Utah Sheriff's Office Association has some concerns with that.
thank you.
And then who will determine who's going to be responsible for the schools in the river region? How will that play out? We know that we have no jurisdiction
Right.
there, but
So So my thoughts, my fight on this is there needs to be language in the bill that says Navajo Nation should be in charge of the SROs in those schools. I know Kayenta has.
Okay, just
I know
clarification.
I have
in the-
Navajo Nation has a SRO in Kayenta, but they don't have any in the schools that we
Oh,
had. We did
okay.
have one in Montezuma Creek at White Horse High School for a number of years in the past. So I don't know what the agreement happened with the school district and the Navajo Nation on that one, or was it just volunteer that the officer would just go there? I don't know. So,
Okay, so clarification in the bill that's
the
going
language
forward.
itself, yeah,
Okay,
that's what we're kind of looking at.
all right, thank you.
I have a question. On the school guardian, I know it says someone can volunteer. Has anybody expressed to volunteer within all the districts, or all the sheriff, the city, and
So
the
that
highway
would be
patrol?
a volunteer school employee.
Oh, okay, not applying
No,
to
yeah,
the.
that's
okay.
a school district employee that
Okay.
has volunteered to take the trainings on those that the state mandates to take.
Okay, but the language in that also said it can't be a teacher, principal.
Yeah.
I mean, so who can it be?
Yeah.
If it can't be any of those things, then, I mean, I think that's a long shot to get somebody to
Volunteer for that, but yeah, and so that's kind of we're gonna break these down and try to come up with some ideas to present to Senator Wilcox and the task force. So that's the stuff that we're trying to figure out, and that's one
Yeah.
thing we're gonna look at tomorrow too, so.
And I think that's part of the reason we're having this conversation is so the board is aware of these challenges. Some of them are very unique to San Juan School District. We're the only public school district in Utah, with the tribal lands, the jurisdiction the way it is. And while there are other tribal lands and a school in Uinta, that it looks very different in what that looks like. So we're very unique that way. I think the other component of that is the size of our schools and how spread out they are. Other rural districts have similar challenges where you have a really tiny school, and this initiative could really impact that of what you can and can't do. So I've given some of that feedback directly, to the legislators involved with this, but Sheriff Lacey is also working through the Sheriff's Association to do that as well. But I think that's a really important part of this is San Juan is very unique in our context compared to many other districts in the state.
So, yep, that's exactly it right there, so. Any other questions, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Nelson, go ahead. You're there.
Sheriff Lacey.
Yes.
Navajo Nation Police Department has always had manpower shortage, and it continues to be in that situation. The question I have for you is, would your office have the manpower to cover Monument Valley and Whitehorse? Remember, there's a school out at Navajo Mountain as well.
Right now, no, we don't have the manpower to cover all three schools and Monticello, and the Monticello schools. No, we do not.
No, just.
Okay, that's good to know. Because in the communities I hear often, why cannot we get the sheriff? And I have to explain to them, you do know that the school is sitting on Utah State school land, and in other words, it's somewhat an island around it is Navajo Nation. So it's always a jurisdiction issue as well, like you said. But in your meeting tomorrow, would it help me being as a member of Navajo Nation and being a member of San Juan School District to make that suggestion to your organization that from my point of view, I would prefer the San Juan County Sheriff's Office to be at these sites. And one more question, do you have any Navajo deputies in your office?
Yes, we do.
I would think they would suffice the jurisdiction issues, or at least the tribal enrollment part of it. So let us know if there's something that we could do to help you, to support you on my suggestion to reaching out to your organization that your office be the SRO.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bring it up with them, and when we get to presenting it to Senator Wilcox, that'd probably be the best time to get a hold of yourself to bring up some issues there too with Superintendent Fitzgerald.
And he did indicate that he was going to DC, a meeting with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, but I also indicated to him that Navajo Nation, Bureau of Indian Affairs is not going to, he's going to need to also have conversations with Navajo Nation, so invited him to do so, and that would help facilitate that.
I do have a question, if I may. I had a parent who was a former Navajo Nation police officer. He said, why not both? If an incident occurs, why not both? In the sense of, would it be possible that the sheriff mediate or just control the situation until the Navajo Nation shows up?
That's
or
kind of what we
is
do.
that
We
already-
do normally. We'll,
Okay.
Usually the call comes to our dispatch, then we transfer it, and then we send our officers
Okay.
to the schools. But we don't have an agreement set up with the Navajo Nation. It's one thing that we're going to work on really hard this year.
Would that help that much
It-
more?
It would help to have an assist agreement set up, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it wouldn't solve the problem of a
Right.
school
Right.
resource officer or anything like that, so.
Understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Superintendent Fitzgerald wanted me to go over a few things. I did my staff study in my LPO class, which is Leadership for Police Officers through Northwestern. And there are some very complex problems that we face. It's not as simple as saying we're going to be cross-deputized. Currently, the only department in this area that has any type of agreement with the Navajo Nation is the Utah Highway Patrol, the Department of Public Safety. You may ask, why am I here? Because I'm the Highway Patrol, but I am under the Department of Public Safety, and actually, this school thing's going to fall underneath a commissioner at the Department of Public Safety as well, that will work with the sheriff to make sure all these things are in compliance. The interesting thing is the school, or the state is going to pass a law that is going to mandate you, and yet the enforcement side of it, while you could still probably do all the things it says, the officer that we send, if he's from San Juan County, or even the Utah Highway Patrol or wherever, won't necessarily have jurisdiction over a Navajo Nation, the Navajo Nation, and therein lies the problem, right? Commissioner Yellow, or Board Member Yellowman, talked about it being an island. Well, the problem is an island inside the Navajo Nation, doesn't matter how you define it, we can't change that definition. It's done by federal statutes, is what I understand. Means it's under the jurisdiction of the Navajo Nation. So it's a difficult thing. The Department of Public Safety, I've been in this area for 25 years working in law enforcement. I worked in Kayenta as a patrol officer, and I've worked all over this county. This has been the problem from day one that I've been working here, is having some sort of agreement. We started to work on one in 2018, 2019, we started having meetings with the command staff at Navajo PD. We came up with everything from a cross commission, which you're talking about both possibly having a cross commission between a sheriff's deputy and a Navajo PD. That option doesn't really work very well. Every time it's happened for, I'm going to speak for the sheriff a little bit, he may know this history, they would get it, there'd be a change in the administration of the Navajo Nation, and they would say that's no longer valid. So that wasn't working for us. We came up with what we call an MAA, a mutual aid agreement. Our department, any of our departments, don't want to go down and take over law enforcement for the Navajo Nation. We need to respect they are an entity that is separate and sovereign from us, but we want to make sure that we help the people that deserve help. The MAA, we started in 2018. It took us until 2022 to actually get it signed. The problem is that comes up with this, it's not so much that the departments don't want to work together, it's nothing to do with that. To get something that complex sent through for another nation, because effectively a law enforcement officer, when he's working on the reservation, when it comes to working with tribal members, there are some things we can do that are public safety, but they're very limited. But we're effectively a tourist in Mexico is how I defined it to you. Okay? So we have to have some sort of agreement that works through that for us. The MAA, like I said, took us a long time, got it 2022, had to be sponsored by a council delegate, taken before the tribal delegation, their government. For them to enter into any agreement, whether it be cross-deputization, an MOU, which you all probably understand, a memorandum of understanding, or an MAA, it has to be done by their government, not by just the police officers. So we were able to finally, after 2 years, get somebody to take it. We presented them the copy, it went back and forth for about a year, and it got presented to the president's office and actually got passed. It got lost 3 times. We had to hand deliver it twice. This MAA allows us as UHP, and it only applies to the Department of Public Safety, it doesn't apply to the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. It allows us, if something happens on the Navajo Nation, we can go and take care of the problem and contain it. Like you were saying a minute ago, can the sheriff hold it down? Yes, we can go and hold it down. It also allows us to operate under our policies, our procedures, our understanding of the law. And when they get there, they take it over, it's their policies. And it's very basic. So the reason we wanted it is because I have troopers that work south. They will be close to some of these incidents, and we were worried about our liability. Some departments don't get to get into this agreement because their insurance companies won't let them. You'd be surprised. USIP doesn't really approve of these. They worry about their liabilities. They don't allow departments to get into them. The state of Utah, State Risk Management, I'm assuming they know what we're doing. They've allowed this. But again, for me, the MAA allows us to stop the problem, the emergency. It doesn't fix anything necessarily, but it does fix the problem of, is an officer really liable? So that's been a great thing for us. It also allows them, which I don't think is ever going to happen, if I ever have a problem close to the border and they've got an officer there, I can ask them to come and help me, because we just talked about manpower. I'm assuming you have the same problem hiring people like we do, and the sheriff's office. The employee pool is tough. We don't have enough. And I know the Navajo Nation, in meetings with their command staff, they will start with 24 cadets, and they're lucky if they end with 10, 15 cadets. So it's tough. We need to help each other, 100%. So that's the current agreement. We are able to go and help do things. The incident the other day, trooper was on his way immediately. That trooper came from Blanding, and then I also responded from Blanding. So you can see there's some troubling things when it comes to responding to an incident in the River District. Do you have any questions about that MAA or understanding that part of it?
Does anyone have any questions? No, thank you.
All right. Obviously, I talked about the challenges. Simply having an SRO, the challenges you're going to have. Obviously, I do think that the SRO is an awesome thing. To speak to Chief Bradford's presentation, in years past, troopers on the side of the road were responding to the schools, and that takes the trooper from what he needs to do, and that's not happening this year. That's been pretty cool. I kind of miss going in the school, but that means something good is happening. On the River District, again, this runs into that problem. To simply have a deputy go down and do it, the sheriff, he knows what that liability is, and he knows he actually can't do that. Not yet, not currently. As I sat here and listened, I thought about a way that you might be able to, or the people on the River District may be able to help this situation, and it's for them to take their chapters to the PD themselves and express what that need is, and put the pressure on from the inside. I think that might be, and I know they probably have. You can probably tell me better if they have or have not, but obviously it's always that pressure from within that will help change. So, communications challenges. Has everybody read that? What did you title that?
It's in the executive content. It talks to some specifics about the schools.
Were you able to read that and understand? I don't want to let everybody know, but there are some specific challenges when it comes to communications. We have one tower for what we call an 800 system, which is a specific type of radio, and a VHS system, which are two different systems. And that tower is right here above us in Blanding. Works really well until about the time you hit Mexican Hat or drop off of Lime Ridge, if you understand that geographic area, or in Montezuma Creek, if you understand radio waves, it doesn't drop into the canyon. So it's very tough. I've operated incidents in both areas where I'm using my cell phone more than I'm using a radio. In 2020, I was able to get UCA, that's the Utah Communications Authority, in contact with UNHS, who I believe you all share towers with. It's a slow-moving train, very slow. But I think with what you wrote in that, or that I think that's going to go to some legislative bodies at some point. Is that true?
Yes, we're sharing that information as part of the school safety task force with the state.
I'm hoping that need gets through. I don't mind it for a traffic stop. I don't like it for the safety of our officers in those areas. It actually scares me. But for an incident such as this, we need it. So any help you could give, we'll accept it. Obviously, I know that my department is working diligently. Currently, we are working on a Navajo mountain tower that I specifically know about. Obviously, I would love to see us partner at some point with UCA to partner with you to be on your towers. I do know that the person I spoke to at UNHS said it was built out to our standards. It's just now a matter of another government agency saying, oh yeah, those will work. And you understand how that slows down our processes. And that kind of leads me into the incident command. I don't know how much you want me to go into in this one.
I think it's just acknowledging that you came in and I mean, I think first the acknowledgement is that we had support with our incident that occurred across the board, and that you were able to take incident command. So that could happen as part of this process.
It didn't necessarily happen because of our agreement. That happened because I think I was the first command personnel on scene, and I walked into your school, and I already knew on my way down some of the things that were happening. I knew that a trooper and a deputy had been clearing the building with 2 other Navajo PD officers. The incident itself, how it escalated, also dictates how we respond, right? Because at first it's an unwanted person, and then it goes to an unwanted person that had something in his hands that was relayed to us as a weapon. That spun up a lot of things, right? That's what dictated the type of response you got for what happened down there. Some struggles I had with that incident command, obviously, is, and it's probably not going to happen all the time, the administrator wasn't there that day. We can't make that happen all the time. And that's, I think I explained to you, these incidents are more like we can practice them all we want, but if you've ever played football or basketball, your play doesn't run exactly the way he designed it. But it worked well enough. I was trying to communicate with the video system. I think Aaron and I have talked, and we had that briefing where we think we have a solution to make sure we are able to get accurate information from your video system as we respond. And I think it's back to sending somebody to your office, to the office here, so that we can have them radio directly to us. Having your staff, keeping them in the loop as much as possible was a good thing, making sure we did what you wanted us to, as well as meeting our demand on what we had to accomplish. What we accomplished sometimes isn't convenient for the students. It's kind of tough on them. And we try to take into consideration the impact we had on them at the same time. The only other thing that I would have, in the incident, I think we talked about it as well, was ending an incident. I realize that there's going to be some demands on reunification on how it's going to happen. I would recommend that when, like I said, when we can tell you it's safe, it's not a crime scene, it's not an ongoing incident, we should be able to, and we talked about this, maybe us communicating it better to you, that there's no need to continue this reunification the way that we did. We could probably have opened up free movement for the children, which is always what we want, is to lessen the impact on them. So overall, like I told the staff down there that day, they did a pretty good job. They dealt with something they've never dealt with before under stress. You know, you can talk about all you want. You can plan it when it's not real. But when it was real, I was actually impressed with what they did and the composure they had. So they should be commended on what they did as well. I know I talked about a lot. Do you have
It's a big
questions?
topic, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So thank you for coming, for all three of you coming and sharing a piece of this. Again, I think this is just important for the board, you know, to have some of these contextual details as we move forward. The implications of House Bill 61 amendments could have fiscal impact and could also have, you know, just the complexities, the other impacts of how we put all of this together unique to San Juan School District. So just wanted to make sure you were getting some of that information along the way as we move forward.
Right. Nelson, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank the law enforcement for their response and other first responders. I do agree and understand there's a lot of challenges with jurisdiction. I was just sitting here again thinking maybe going with the Bureau of Indian Affairs police officer. I know there's one in White Mesa, but again, it's probably more in-depth to it because it's the nation. You are right. The day of the incident, I was out of the area, and when I had found out about it, I was in the next state over, and it was a long afternoon because I could not come back right away. But in my community, at the school that I represent, it was mind-boggling, and I just hope that the outcome of it was going to be okay. But you hear stories across the country of incidents like these. It only takes a few seconds, and we don't have that time for our closest law enforcement to be there, to be available. It takes a few seconds, 10, 15 seconds, to empty a magazine. So again, I want to thank you, and I wish you my best for your process of how we're going to handle this and how we're going to do this. Government offices, government is always a challenge. Politics is always a challenge. I know my nation. I've gone around this block a few times. So once again, thank you, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We appreciate that information, and hopefully we'll get somewhere with it. So, all right, we're going to jump down to our school director reports. Thank you for waiting. So we're going to hear from, where'd my screen go? Thank you. Ms. Armato, if you'll come up, thank you for joining us. Oh, yes, if you need to toggle. So what I think we'll do is we'll have some questions for you, but I would like you to speak to your challenges first and then your celebrations if you can.
Okay, so challenges. I listed 4 of them. Number 1 would be our literacy support, specifically in phonics. We're all familiar with the science of reading, and we don't have that support in our school, and it's not quite implemented the way we want to build those foundational steps for our students, specifically lower grades, so K through 3rd grade.
And it's tough to build readers when you don't have the resources to do that. So that was number one. Do you have any questions about phonics support?
So before you go, what support is lacking and why is it lacking?
So we have been using a resource from Wonder, so the Basil that is found across the district, and it isn't as heavy in the science of reading and giving that instruction. It also requires a bit of onboarding, and so when we do get new staff members, they have to go complete a process of onboarding, but that doesn't always happen just because we have 4 paras for 263 students, and they're always attending small groups or supporting students with high needs. And so sometimes those things don't get fully rolled out with new staff. And so the support that we're trying to look for is a resource called 95% that will allow anybody to just come in and then provide a lesson that's rich with the science of like sounds, how blends come together, phonemes, letter sound recognition, things like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I move on to the
anybody
next
has a
one?
question?
What was it called again?
95%, and they use it in Monticello currently and then in Blanding Elementary.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Heather, I see one of your challenges, the Navajo language focus. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes. So we are currently at 50% proficiency in Navajo language, and I'm using academic terms, but the number of people who speak the Navajo language has dropped to 50%. And it used to be 20 years ago, 80% of our population speaking the Navajo language. So this is a growing concern every year that our students and our children go home and can't even recite their clans. And so for some reason, there's still a divide in the language and the way that it's implemented within our schools. So I presented at our local chapter house, and this was the topic of our discussion in terms of things that they were concerned about. If you don't belong to a certain group and you don't have that language, you don't have that drive to want to improve and to better yourself or your community. And so I feel like this stems from that being an issue. And so if our kids don't speak their language, they can't communicate with their elders. And furthermore, they don't have any place to go. So they can't speak the Navajo language, and without the phonics support, they're not even speaking correct English, and so it just ends up being this domino effect.
Sure. Okay. And
I do agree with that last part that you said. Phonics and Navajo they have to help each other to speak both languages.
Okay. And then also on your enrollment, 130 students?
Yes,
The
our
McKinney-Vento?
McKinney-Vento, yes, so homeless, considered homeless. And those are followed by state guidelines of just the McKinney-Vento process and how we, I don't believe the words register, but how we enroll our students in these questions that we ask them on those, what is it called? Those enrollment, 130 students fit within that criteria. And I'm sure there's more, because some parents feel almost ashamed, and we're trying to find a way to support parents to feel confident enough to express the needs that they have. And so I feel like that's a process. But it helps that our office staff is 100% Navajo, and so we feel like we're breaking some of those barriers and letting them know that the school is a resource for them, and we're not targeting them because of their demographics or because we want to label them.
It's just a high number.
Yes.
Very high. So, and then, does anybody have more questions on the challenges, or do you want to speak to the celebrations?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On your challenges, it says parent involvement, and then I seen also absenteeism also again. And could that be all contributing to the 130, the demographics that they're
Yes.
hitting there?
Yes.
How do we fix that? I'm sure you have ideas, and I'm sure,
Yes.
you know. I mean-
One of the things, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I'll
No,
let
no,
you
no,
finish.
you're fine.
One of the things that we're trying to do to build those relationships back up is our home visit initiative, and we're really sad that the ESSER funds are leaving our district for, I'm not totally, I don't understand that part of my job yet, but our home visit initiative allows our teachers to go into the homes of the families and break down some of those barriers or communication gaps or differences that they may think we have. And so we feel like parents have only received notification or any type of communication from the school in terms of negative feedback. And so we're really trying to reach out to parents in positive, with a positive response as well. And when students miss 2 days in a row, I've asked our teachers as well as our liaison to make a phone call and just have that conversation with them and start by saying, we miss your child and how can we work together? Like, we're a part of your team and we want them to be here and they're a valuable voice and a part of our classroom. So just kind of changing that mindset in the way we approach it. And it's not, your child's missed 3 days and they're missing my class.
Very good. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I love that positive approach to reaching out to parents and just, that genuine care for the children. And I don't know if this is an appropriate time or not, but speaking about the McKinley Homeless Act, it was a long time ago. I remember and Tony Turk gave all the criteria for, so it doesn't mean that these students are homeless, but they're the criteria. Right. My kids, where we grew up in our circumstances, fit the homeless. They were considered homeless in the McKinney Homeless Act because of circumstances of where we live and things within our home. So anyway, it would be valuable information for us to have a presentation sometime on that criteria so that we understand what occurs to deem a child homeless under the act, because they're not necessarily homeless. They could be.
Sure, but it puts that at a high risk.
And so
Yes.
if more than one family member lives in, if they live together, they're considered homeless. If they don't have, in my case, one of the things is that we don't have treated drinking water at our house. So my kids were always considered homeless under that act. And anyway, it would be helpful for us to see what all those criteria is.
Okay.
Can we do that in the future?
Go ahead, Nelson.
Let me add to that comment Mary just made. It is true, during the pandemic, Navajo Nation's statistics has always been high because they were getting, clusters of families getting sick from the virus because there were 2 or 3 families living under one roof. So the numbers had really, really increased. How many actual families are considered homeless because they're all living together. Probably reaching out to Navajo Nation for some statistics will probably help too.
Yes, thank you. So you've highlighted on some of your celebrations. Is there anything you want to add to that before we wrap up your presentation? Or anything else in your slides that you prefer to speak to?
Just that I'm excited to be collaborating with Monticello Elementary, and I feel like they've opened their doors to us and supported us in so many ways. And so we appreciate their collaboration in helping our data move forward as well as our instruction. And so, thank you.
Well, it's always great when people work together. It builds great teams, so that's good to hear. Anything else for her? Okay, we appreciate you being with us, and thank you, and good luck the rest of the year, and any way we can help you out. Thank you. All right, Mr. Gandy, you ready?
Thank you for letting us be here to be able to present to you guys. We'll start with the challenges so you guys can see an idea what we're facing on our challenges. And I highlighted 3 challenges that, I've been here for 5 years now. This is my 5th year here. As a teacher, as part of the leadership team as well at the school. So I've got a little advantage of being a principal here right now because I know our kids and know what they can do. So it's trying to keep them accountable to what they're doing. But achievement is our biggest challenge right now, academic achievement. And you can see that from the data that I gave you. And we're still trying to target why. We've been trying to figure that out for 4 years with our kids here. We have some ideas. The struggle that we've been facing is test taking. That is a big issue. So what we're doing is we're trying to practice test taking strategies with our kids. We're going to hone in on this next quarter really deeply on just vocabulary and test-taking strategies with our kids through our intervention program. We're also going to be developing that with our teachers too in math, science, and English. Science, you saw, was doing pretty well. We're seeing some good growth across all 3 disciplines, but the achievement piece is really a key piece we got to get our kids to improve on. And I talked to a number of families. Kids freeze up on testing. They do. So I got to get them comfortable in their own world of testing. And that's what we're going to really gear into for this next semester. So academic achievement, any questions in regard to that? I will, before I ask that, I will show you, or I'd like you to look at those slides. We have some growth. And I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing in the growth with science, math, and English, and the lower 25%. That was a big target for us last year, is to find out how we can get our kids to grow more. The achievement's not there, but the growth is getting there. So that's our challenge. I'll stop there on just the academic achievement part for you to answer or ask any question you might have of me.
Any questions on that? Go ahead, Colleen.
Please.
You said testing is an issue, and I can attest to that because even my own kids, they freeze up. Have we done a survey with the students or asked the students what would help you to be more comfortable? Because I know for my kid, it was if I could just have one AirPod on and listening to music,
Right.
that would be something that would be helpful. But I know that, again, that's testing, so there's definitely some restrictions on that. But have we spoke to the students and asked?
No, we haven't yet. That's a very good idea, so thank you for sharing that with me. I do know that that would be, for state testing purposes, we can't have earphones
Right.
on. But that's what we want to look at. What is it going to help you to become better at? For instance, I'll give you an example of what we're trying to do for ACT. Right now, we have 60% of our students, not 40%, it's 60% of our students that have been already accepted to college for this year. That's starting right now, 60%. That's fantastic. We're giving the ACT test twice before they actually take the ACT test so that they're familiar with the language of the test, the format of the test, and that's not a shock to their system.
Right.
So I think that's what we're going to be working on first and foremost is let's get the students to see what the test is like. Get them familiar with the vocabulary of the test, the directions of the test. And from that practice, we hope that makes it more comfortable for them. But that's really actually a very good idea. What would make you more comfortable taking a test? We can ask those questions in a
Right,
survey.
because I have a junior that's doing the ACT prep too, and that was the biggest thing is I can hear the guy next to me breathing, like, I don't know what that
understand.
attributed to his anxiety, but,
Yeah.
that was something I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even think about that, so.
Yeah, and test anxiety is real.
Yeah.
I will say that to my grave. Test anxiety is for real.
Yes.
Okay, so that's something we'll work on. We worked hard with our lower 25% with that last year, and we saw some really good results. Now let's look at the whole population is what we're going to aim for.
Would you attribute that to I saw the growth in your ACT score, well, the rise in your ACT score overall?
I think so.
Like
Because
2 points, right?
Yeah, we've jumped up 2 percentage points. Our goal is, get in that 18 to 22
Sure.
range. I mean,
But
that's what we'd
moving
like.
on up. That's
I know,
great.
we're moving there.
Yeah.
But it could be that we're getting more practice and the kids become more familiar with it, and it makes it a little bit easier. I just know the more you take the test, the better you become at taking that test.
Sure.
And I know back in Indiana, we did the SAT, and we did PSAT a number of times, and it did get our kids more familiar with the testing for that.
That's great.
So we're hoping that it helps our kids with that.
Good. Anything else?
Okay? Any other
Okay.
questions on that part?
No.
All right, attendance. Part of my goal as a principal there, I want 85% attendance. You saw that we've gotten better. We've gone from 67 to 76, I believe. I want to hit that 85%. So I know just in the past month, we've had a lot of families we've been meeting with. I met with a lot of grandparents, parents, and trying to find a plan to help them get their kids comfortable in coming to school. I'll give you an example that really faces some of our kids. We've got one child that's parent is in dialysis, and that parent also has a child at home. So this child, this high school kid, is driving their dad to dialysis down to Kayenta and missing school. So we're trying to be creative in our ways and helping those matters with our kids because there is a lot of health issues on where we are. And it's really difficult for our kids sometimes to feel connected in our school, and we're working on that piece too through all the clubs we're doing, all the different activities we're offering this year. So I think we're getting better at it, and I got a pretty high target for that. I'm hoping we reach it. You can keep me accountable for it. We're going to continue to find ways to meet with our parents. We're doing what Heather's also doing and Derek's been leading us with, is getting those visits with parents starting in January. What's been nice, we've had our grandparents coming in saying, how can we help, from our end, how can we help them? We've got a lot of parents that are reaching out to us, which is good. That's what we want. That way we can come up with a plan for our kids and help them get back to school and feel a normal day. So that's what we're doing with our attendance piece to help get our parents and our kids back to school and in place. Questions on the attendance? I don't need to say any more about school safety. You guys already said it. You guys already said it. So, our concern is about the response time.
Right.
So I really appreciate the support with that. We both do, I'm sure. We both feel the same way in regard to, we want to keep our kids safe. That's our bottom line. Every day we want our kids back home safe. Okay? Any questions?
On your attendance, we have Chromebooks.
Yes.
We have Wi-Fi in a lot of homes. Is that being utilized?
It's spotty.
Ah.
It's spotty by where they're located. We have Wi-Fi for every kid, but again, some areas are just really tough. And we still do some paper and pencil handing out to kids so that they can get their work caught up if they miss work.
Okay.
And it's not anything the district has done. They've reached out. We've tried to get those in place. And then movement by parents too and guardians.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate what you do. Okay.
Celebrations.
Oh.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. I'll make this really quick, okay?
Highlight the ones you love.
Celebrations. All right, if we get our celebration, you guys can see the list. I really, I'm pleased with the 60% that we already have of students accepted to college. That's fantastic. That's a big highlight that I want us to recognize, okay? And we're going to continue to push that. We've had a lot of events. Gina has been fantastic, really working on our CTE program down there. I was part of that CTE as a teacher with robotics and so on. We've got some really good programs going on for our kids that are hands-on work. And I'm excited about that piece. You can see that we've got some really good things we did during Heritage Language Month. Pax Harvey, the Darlene and John Yazzie Traditional Song and Dance. We did a Sean Price troupe came in too. I didn't faint through the butchering of the sheep. Okay, I'm a Chicago guy. I always eat my food packaged, but I did see it. We were real good. Kids enjoyed the demonstration. Were able to pick out their sheep that they wanted to do that with. Really good demonstration on that piece. We've had great college night successes, and you can see we've got wrestling this year with esports. I'm excited. We've got a wrestling program in place. Sid is a really good coach for us. He is a San Juan person, and he's come to do a really good job with our female and male wrestlers. So we've got that going on too. So I'm just excited about the many things that are going on that are positive in our school right now. All right, we've got good kids, and I love them. So thank you for allowing me to be the principal there. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your work.
I have just one question.
Go ahead. Come back
Come on,
up.
Nelson.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm not able to be there today for you and Heather's report, so last year I wasn't there either, so I feel really bad. Question. Are there any new clubs that you've got quite a bit listed there? And I asked because last spring or so, there was some chatter about not having other clubs available.
So in my list there that we've got, the new ones, the robotics is jumping out with esports, which is really good. We actually are doing a Special Olympics, a couple of different programs with that this year, Nelson. We'll have a halftime of a game Special Olympics demonstration with our kids being paired up with other athletes, and they'll play an actual kind of a 10-minute game based on what Special Olympics has done in the past. We do have STEM and STEAM clubs going on right now. I've got a teacher that's putting all that together. You can see that we've got our Skills USA, our yearbook, our student council. Student council is solid in operations right now. We've got every grade level represented by the president, vice president, so on. So, in the past, I think we've upped the ante for our kids to have more opportunities, which I'm hearing that from the kids. But you know what? I could do a survey to find out, based on the survey I put out last year, to see if there is actually growth in that piece. So we can get a data piece with that too.
Awesome, great, that sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll let you go walk
My
back
kid go?
at least halfway.
Wait. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back up to our discussion items, and we will hit number 4, which is our spend plans. That's with Julie Holt, if you'll just, I think you've got the next
Good
like 3
afternoon.
items,
Yes,
so you
I'll
can
just tackle
tell
them
us.
all.
Okay, perfect.
So the first one are the spend plans for San Juan High and Monticello High School for golf, both boys and girls. So what we've done is we wanted to align them with both schools. So we took the opportunity to sit down and look at the spirit packs, make sure that the language aligned, that the prices aligned, and then we took things out of the spirit pack that could be in miscellaneous. On those 2 documents, you'll see they're really cleaned up from the ones that were originally submitted. But the 2 items that have moved to miscellaneous are the golf balls, and some of those students just want for competition. They don't have to have those. We have plenty of balls. And the golf course is really awesome to support us and let kids go out and find more balls if they need them, and then also tees. So those 2 items move to miscellaneous. Everything else is in the spirit pack, and then there's just a few differences between schools on the amount of travel and meals, just because of what they have going for each program. But that's the boys and girls for both schools, and that's the first viewing for that.
Any questions on that one?
I just had this thing come up, and parents are finding these affordable, they're okay with, that was one of my biggest things is,
Yeah.
not everybody's on the fee waiver, so are our parents?
We haven't had complaints,
Okay, good.
and we've really tried to keep the amounts as low as possible.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons for this process, is to
Right.
be able to really look at things and say, what's the least amount that we would need to charge a student to be able to participate? And that's good for the student side, it's also good for the district side, because any student that's a fee waiver, the district's picking up, so it benefits both of us. But yes, it's expensive to participate in extracurricular sports, and that definitely is a challenge. The program sustainability and the fundraisers that they're doing that are not required are also, they do have some like golf clubs and bags and things like that we're keeping on hand. We're this is really an annual thing, and that's the reason we look at these annually, is for this year, they wanted to relook at it and say, we're in a pretty good place knowing the students that we anticipate are going to play golf this year with both schools, that we can provide what's needed without putting it into a spend plan.
Okay.
So some of those things we're trying to pick up, even push carts, that was part of our discussion. Do we require that? And we decided with what we have, we feel like we can make do, and it's not required to have a push cart. So those kinds of things went into this discussion as well.
Okay, great.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And to note, and I just want to clarify, ask you, they don't always spend this much. It doesn't necessarily cost.
Yeah, this is the maximum.
It's all expensive, and it is, and I think, parents complain, but they don't come to us and say, this is just not, I mean, but they, it's
Yeah, it's
expensive.
heavy.
I mean, they complain that way, but not
Okay.
officially to us, like, what are we, you've got to lower things or whatever, but yeah,
And
it's
that's
not
part
easy,
of the
but
purpose of this
some-
process as well, is that we see at a first viewing, a second viewing, if parents are concerned, they can come to board meeting, they can share those concerns as well in the process of looking at these. But
Well, and one thing, in the past, I mean, when you've had children there, you just fork the money out. And now it's finally documented on paper, so it's kind of like sticker shock. And you're like, oh, that's really what I paid, without going back through. But this is kind of that visual of saying, yeah, this is really what it's gonna cost. And then as a parent, you can kind of work that through.
And I would venture to guess, we hardly have any spend plans that anyone is paying the max that you see on the
Right.
spend plan. But it is reflective of the max if we did have to pay for that.
Well, and I like that we're looking back at what we already have equipment-wise or whatever we were able to recycle. So that was, I guess that's why it leads to my concern is we're okay with the amount,
Yeah.
we're thinking of all factors in there. Because if you have multiple children and doing numerous activities, I can understand you're paying us more than we are giving you, basically.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make sure that was asked.
And the other part of that, the expense it is, again, to parents, because tax dollars come from people. They don't come from the sky. So it's an expense to the school district that costs the taxpayers. I mean, it just is. So all of it's expensive. And I just always hope our students, our children here in San Juan County know how much, I don't think they know, and maybe there's a way we can help them understand what the adults in this community, in this county, do for them and on their behalf, and if that's, something they even think about is the huge benefits that they have and opportunities they have, huge financial expense. And adults in their lives, want to see those opportunities for kids. And I'm not sure they know that until they start paying the bills and paying taxes and all those kinds of things when they're grown up.
Well, and coaches have gone to great lengths. I will say, I think they need to be validated that with fundraisers, we have really cut back and tried to only do fundraisers that are needed, but also that will help provide what we can to individual students in that process. So,
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next one.
ARL, this is a pretty simple spend plan for their math club. So math club is not a new club at ARL, but they would like to submit a spend plan that has a few meals on there and either a shirt or a jacket that could be a unity symbol when they do go to competitions. So they would like to anticipate 3 math competitions. Last year they attended Snow College. They were fed lunch while they were there. The school is picking up all of the additional costs with other budgets to cover the club at this point. So for this year, it's pretty simple. Just looking at an opportunity to get some kind of something to apparel to wear to unify them at the club, at the competition, and then a few meals.
Any questions on that?
My only question is, are we doing math clubs and math competitions or looking at doing them in any of our other schools? Or is it just ARL?
So other schools have lots of clubs, but math club, ARL is the only school in the mountain region that has a specific math club.
And so are they
But I mean,
interested?
Yeah, and that's kind of how clubs have evolved, is at
Is-
individual schools, if there's the interest, then we look at creating, something to support that. So that's evolved at ARL, and it's been very successful and absolutely can be looked at other schools.
Okay, I think that's exciting. Once I was at our USBA conference, one of the students who had won the geography bee there's all kinds of things that, if we can grow that academic competition I would love to see that in our other schools as well, math club and others.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you.
Great.
Okay, we'll move to the Blanding Elementary School Land Trust Amendment.
Okay, so this is their goal number one, and just as a reminder, this was their goal to support STEAM and the implementation of Destination Imagination in their school as an enrichment program this year. This, I just want you to know this has been highly successful so far this year. We have grown to the point where we're relooking at how we schedule that and have 30 more third graders that are ready to enter. We based it off of Acadian's data and summative data at the beginning of the year, but we've looked at progress monitoring along the way, and if students have made those benchmarks, then they're having that opportunity to go to enrichment. So within this goal, they are paying for the salary for the STEAM paraeducator. They're paying for the fee to pay for Destination Imagination. And originally when this goal was submitted last year, it was the understanding of the administration at that time that we would need to do multiple teams. And moving into actually implementing it this year, they could do it as one team, and so the cost was cut significantly on that budget line. So we just took that back to School Community Council, said what would we like to do with that amount of money that is left over. They would like to choose to leave it within the STEAM program and just move it to the supply line. And so that's what I'm proposing that and bringing to you for your approval today, is that we just move that additional amount of $2780 to the supply line. They will continue to add to that program that's being very successful.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, Derek, you're up for spend plans for Navajo Mountain Student Council.
Yes, good evening, not afternoon. So there were no suggestions from the last one, but just to kind of give an update, there were kind of congruent all across the board. There was just one where they'll be traveling, where there was an additional meal, so that was the only modification that was needed in the Navajo Mountain spend plan for their student government. But they've been holding meetings, and there's 10 people representation from grades 9 through 12.
Actually, it sounds like it's going great.
It is, yeah.
So, awesome. And this is the second viewing on this one,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Any questions?
All right, any questions? Okay? No.
Awesome.
No,
Thank
I
you.
don't think Nelson is. Thank you. All right. All right, we'll move to our calendar.
Yeah, so I'm bringing back some data from a parent survey that was issued for the school calendar. As you can see, so this data was pulled as of Friday. We had 145 responses. We sent the survey out through our Aspire system, so it went out to a little over 3,000 email addresses. I did get about maybe 130 that bounced back. But overall, the majority of our parents had an opportunity to respond to this survey. You may have noticed that it's a little different than the teacher survey because we did add a fourth option to the parent one. The fourth option was having the students return on the Monday instead of the Friday. But because we had to take another vacation day, it lost the snow makeup day in April. So all of that was explained to the parents, and then this is the results of it. It matches very closely with the teacher and administrator survey that was given. About almost the exact same percentage of people responded for option one, which is the current format we are in right now.
Okay. Is there any questions? So the recommendation is option one.
Yes.
And that one is the one that students return to school on a Friday after Christmas break.
Looks like the parent, yeah, those surveys are very similar in percentage-wise, like you said.
Yes, very close. And we did have more teachers respond. I believe we had about 170 teachers respond as opposed to 140. I did leave the survey open up through yesterday in case we had any big changes with parents wanting to voice their opinion right before board meeting. I think I had maybe 5 or 6 different things trickle in, but it did not change the outcome at all.
Okay.
It was either option 1 or 4.
All right, so any questions for Lara? And that is an action item tonight, so. Okay. No.
I just wanted to say thank you for following through on that and making it happen, getting the parents' input. So, yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 9, Blanding Elementary School follow-up. Tyrell.
All right, my name's on this, but I'm excited to kind of pass it off to, I think we have Is Brian on now? Aaron, have we let him into the meeting? Okay. So we have our design team that's joined us virtually, and they're going to provide an update on our Blanding Elementary School project and where that's kind of come to the board. This presentation that he's going to go through was also presented to our school community group this past Friday with some updates and after hearing some of their input. So I'm gonna turn it over to Brian and his team and let them take this first few minutes here to kind of give you guys an update of where we're at with the design process.
Okay. Brian, can you hear us?
Yeah, test. Can you hear me? Yep.
All right, the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. The floor is.
Thank you.
To Brian or to Clint?
To Brian.
Okay. Sorry, my audio just started like 10 seconds ago. Sorry. Okay. I've been invited to give a brief update on how things are going and kind of where the design is heading for the elementary school in Blanding. We had, in my opinion, a very successful school and community workshop last Friday, where teachers and others were able to see kind of an idea of where the plan is going, and it's going in a very positive direction. So yeah, if you want to pop to the next slide, the site. The site, for those who are familiar with it, know that from the northwest, so the top right corner in this diagram to the bottom left corner in this diagram, there's over 40 feet of slope. So we're dealing with a considerable amount of grade, and the site is taking it up very well. There'll be some sloping, a few retaining walls, but we're able to get all of the different site amenities that you're used to seeing in your other schools, with the parent drop-off, a bus area, and then ample parking. The entrance to the school is facing 100 West, so towards the east, and then there are some neighbors and houses towards the west in the grass play area and kind of private play area is facing that direction. So and also with the site layout, you'll notice there's not a ton of green on the site. So one of the things that we're looking at is enough grass for a fun recess play area, but then doing some more xeriscape and native planting rather than a ton of grass and different site they have to maintain. Deliveries will be happening on the north side as well, coming into the kitchen. That if we go to the next image, which is the plan, you can kind of see more clearly how things are laying out within the building. The building is basically following a lot of the precedents that were set up beginning in Monument Valley and then repeated in Monticello and Bluff with the classroom clusters that share a breakout room or an interventionist room. Each of the classrooms have storage. That same model and prototype. Most of the spaces in the school you'll recognize from your other schools. In this case, there are just because of the student population count, there will just be more of them, where we're looking at 4 classrooms per grade in lieu of the 1 or 2 or 3 in your other schools. You can see in the middle of this floor plan, towards the facing the bottom is the main entry, and the main entry area. There'll be a secure vestibule. The spaces to the left of that entry that are kind of an orange color are the admin area. To the right is the media center, and then continuing to the right, the space that's labeled, that's colored green, is the cafeteria. Its layout is very similar to what we're seeing in Monticello or Bluff. where there's a multi-purpose room where that could be used during the day, but then also could be used as a place for performances and presentations. This school, because of the student population, has a preschool room, so the space that's the classroom farthest to the north along that main corridor is preschool. And then also along that main corridor are 3 special ed rooms, 2 of the octagon rooms, and then a general use classroom. The layout of the school is such that things can be compartmentalized. So if there's an after-hours event in the cafeteria, we can lock off the classroom wings and the rest of the school and have access just to that space. As we move farther to the left, the large green area to the bottom left of your screen is the gymnasium, and it's sized similarly as to the other schools. Right now, there's a seating capacity in the bleachers of 600, and all 600 of those seats are on one side. The idea being that if there's an assembly or something, the entire student body could be sitting in the bleachers, and the screen could be on the opposite wall, and there could be some full school activities happening there. So that's something that's a little different than you're used to. I think that's kind of the highlights of the floor plan. It's coming along very well, I think, and we're still in the process of fine tuning everything and right sizing a little bit, but right now we're pretty dialed in, I think, to a plan that works. As we start to look at the exterior, Tyrell, are you running the?
Yeah. Aaron is. Yep.
Okay, Aaron. So we've had a similar mandate with this school as other schools, and that that is to try and design an aesthetic that feels right for the community that it's being constructed in. And so for the exterior, we looked around the community and looked at how for decades or centuries, how people have been building in the area. The buildings here you'll recognize. There's a lot of masonry, a lot of stone. And so we started to take some cues and inspiration from these forms. Aaron, if you want to go to the next one. And then really starting to be inspired and kind of look at the region where Blanding is and the region where the students that will be going to the school are, and seeing that the canyons and the mesas, and what struck us is the idea of this canyon wall that is creating and setting the backdrop for everything that's happening in Blanding and in the area. Go to the next slide if you would. This slide is showing materials. I think the two pictures that might be of most interest are the picture right below the church where there's brick. So that's a close-up of a brick sample next to the church brick, and then towards the bottom underneath San Juan High, where there's a couple of samples up against San Juan High. So as we start to look at translating the masonry from materials that people use over time in Blanding, we see the gold and the buff color in the church. We see a lot of red, like in San Juan High as a perfect example, but I see that same red brick in a lot of places. I see that same buff sandstone in a lot of places. We see wood, and historically there's been wood, and so we're kind of taking some cues from that as a material. And then if you go to the next slide, and then the stone that's everywhere, and looking at that as a material. One thing that also we kind of looked at and was inspired from is the top couple images, looking at how the ancestral Puebloan people would build with the canyon wall, and building inside the canyon wall, or sometimes building out of the canyon wall. Whether that canyon wall is generally where we find a lot of their structures, and and using that as a shelter and a backdrop and a refuge and a place to, where building was happening. Go to the next one, because this is probably less interesting in the time we have. So the form that the building is taking, as you look at this, the lightest color on here is that buff sandstone material, although it's not sandstone, it's concrete block to be use the most economical material. And then in above that is the goldish brick. The classroom wings, we're looking at using the reddish masonry, and that dark brown band above, we're looking at using a wood material, and it's a material to look like wood. So right now we're looking at a metal panel, so that'd be very similar to the metal that we used at Bluff that looks like wood. So it's very easy to maintain, but you get that warmth and the grain of the wood. And then for that east wall, which is where the main entrance is, we're looking at using a stone. And really kind of, we started to call that the canyon wall, where the main entrance is kind of poked into that wall, the media center pokes out, and different elements are kind of going in and out of that wall, similar to what we saw with the ancient structures, and using that canyon wall, that stone wall as the backdrop, and the feature for what's happening with the rest of the school. So just to orient you on this image, the cafeteria is the shape that has the reddish roof that's kind of tilted. So right now we're looking at the kitchen to the right of that, and then moving from that form to the left. The first bump out with windows is a media center, then the canopy is highlighting the main entry, and then everything to the left of that, those windows are all offices, and then of course you can see the gymnasium form with the classroom wings behind. And then as we start to look at it a little further and get a little more detailed with the rendering, you can start to see what that main entrance would look like from the parent drop-off zone. A little bit closer. Some people are distracted by the plants. Try not to be distracted by the plants. What we're trying to show is appropriate landscape, and this is what was easily available to our modeling software. So if you don't want to get poked by yucca, it won't be there.
Hey, it keeps the kids where they need to be.
Are you ready for questions?
Just about, if we can get to the interior real quick. Yes, so for the interior concept, as we looked at our history together, right, begin in Monument Valley, where the interior aesthetic is very Navajo, represents the Navajo culture, I hope very well. When we look at Monticello, it reflects that local culture also very well. But there, in Blanding, the question became, how do we represent both of those, and then really all of the cultures that will be part of this school? Not forgetting the White Mesa students that are also part of the Blanding community. So as we had different workshops and conversations, the ideas kind of gravitated towards, rather than leaning in on an aesthetic similar to Monument Valley, mashed up with an aesthetic similar to Monticello, with a White Mesa twist, and what happens in 20 years if there's a higher influx of another ethnic group that may or may not be represented in what we're doing. The idea kind of evolved to, well, if rather than being very culturally centric in the interior design, what if we start to lean in on the landscape again and celebrate this place that has brought all people here? So rather than being super specific about representing a culture within the school, really what we're doing is celebrating the landscape and the beauty and the region that brought all people over time to this place, so that the school can hopefully celebrate and respect all people equally, because it's this fantastic place that brought people here. And so for the interior, as we're starting to think about how do we articulate that, the ideas of mountains, mesas, and canyons being represented, sometimes literally, but mostly stylistically and in color choices and material choices. So the idea is that the north wing would be mountains, the middle wing would be mesas, the south wing would be canyons, kind of following the natural landscape of the mountains to the north and moving towards the south, and then different colors and patterns in the walls and in the floors and other places would be represented on the interior. Go ahead to the next. That's kind of an idea of what the main entry would be, but if you go to the next slide, it gives you a way better idea of what the main entry would be. So you'll see some things that hopefully look very similar to other San Juan schools. So it feels like, yes, this is a school for our district, and it's also unique to Blanding at the same time. So this is the view as you walk right in the front door. Similar to some of the other schools, there's a mascot logo in the floor, and then you see some of the colored patterns representing the mountains, mesas, and canyons. It's not shown here, but there's an area between the windows and between the upper windows and the display case windows and other things for artwork similar to your other schools, and creating a similar gathering and welcoming space to this school as the others. And then this is a view looking down one of the main corridors. To the right is an entrance into one of the heritage language classrooms, and to the left is the entrance into the gymnasium. And so you see introducing again in this area where the hallways widened a little bit, that stone, and bringing that natural stone into the school, and then creating enough places for display and celebrating student work and other things. So Mary, that was as brief as I could be, and I think that was Mary's voice I heard asking about a question.
Yeah, I just attended a little Christmas program for just the first grade at Blanding Elementary before I came to this meeting. And it was, of course, done in the lunchroom, where there is a stage where, or risers, steps for students to sit at or stand while they performed. And so it brought up some real life questions for me. Tell me how many parking spots are in this new school currently, in the current plan?
In the current plan, there are 202 parking spots.
Okay, that will be closer to really accommodating what I saw today. So yeah. 200 and what, 2? 202. 202, okay.
Yeah, and in the interest of full disclosure, part of our activities last week was looking at costs and value engineering, basically looking at ways where we might be able to save some money without impacting the use, the usability and features, the way you use the school. So one of the things that we did talk about was potentially reducing the parking, likely on the north end, because as we look at how parking will be used across the site, the south end parking is important in case there's, for the gymnasium use. It's also most convenient for teachers to get to the south and middle wing. North parking would be most convenient for teachers to get to the north wing, and for cafeteria and food service and maybe custodial workers. So in the interest of really trying to balance economics, that number may come down, but
okay, and I would agree with that.
If it came down, we're talking no less than 160, which is about 4 times what they have now.
I'm pretty sure there were a good 200 cars parked there today, because there was already the teachers, the staff, people who worked at the school, because this program was during school, and you take 100 kids, and remember,
Yeah.
Blanding community is by far the largest, so, community. And so you've got about 100 kids, and those parents are coming from 2 different locations in most cases during the day to come to a program. So if the mom and dad were both there, probably 2 vehicles came in most cases, or a lot of cases. And then grandparents, there were definitely over 200 cars. And not that people can't park on the streets, because they did today and they will. So I would say even, so that north parking lot, if in the new school, those programs are still held in the cafeteria. So,
okay.
it brought up lots of questions to me as I looked at the cars and tried to count them and determined there was easily 200 plus cars there today. And the next thing was, the risers, so the kids were standing. But the cafeteria, and again, we walked in the front door because that's the only door, so you're kind of walking in front of the whole thing. And so I love that we've got this back door here, if that's where programs like that are going to be. And if it's practical to set up chairs, in this case, the tables were out. I was in the back with some grandmas, one with a cane, one that was in her 80s, trying to stand, trying to see. I was back there, I couldn't see or figure out where my grandkids were, so I snuck up and got to the front. But the people in the last half of that crowded space could not see their kids. The program was short and sweet. It was so wonderful. I had zero to complain about the actual, the singing and it was just great, but it only lasts 10, 15 minutes, and people walked quite a ways and couldn't see their kids, and grandkids, and it's super disappointing, and it was very crowded. So how much bigger is this cafeteria than the current one? I think Tyrell was saying 1,500 square feet. And then at our other schools, I'm not aware of how do they use risers in those schools so the kids can line up? I mean, there's not as many kids, so you're not packing as many kids. More kids are on the front row or the second row. What?
We go in the gymnasium.
Okay, so you do it in the gym. So then where are the kids, just standing on the gym floor?
They're on the bleachers. They're in the bleachers, and the parents are on the chairs, on the floor. So the parents come in and file on the floor. They come in and file in on the floor, and then use the north end bleachers, and then the kids are on the south end bleachers, right, Julie? Is that? East. What of those directions? But yeah, so like the kids are here, parents.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
They also have a stage that's portable.
Yeah.
So they use parts of that if they want to turn it north and south.
And kind of have raised, okay.
Or use it in the multi-purpose room. So do a kindergarten graduation in the multi-purpose room and get it all set up and just open those doors and sell it to the parents in the cafeteria.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to, based on this school that is, 70 years old, and it's not ideal and we know that, but going into a new school, we don't want to spend the amount of money we're spending and have a whole new thing and say, wow, well, this is, we still can't see the kids, we're packed in here, that kind of thing. So just wanted to make sure that we've got the space needed for the size of community that we have in Blanding. And you mentioned in your presentation that the gym is similar to the other gyms built here in San Juan County, which I will reiterate isn't even close to adequate. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into these gyms, the one in Monticello when there's been activities, the one here in Blanding at the middle school, and then also the wellness center that Blanding City has. And you literally have to look for a place to stand if you're lucky. And, at my age, sometimes that can be difficult to stand for a couple of hours because there's no place. Sometimes I'm carrying a chair and I can't put out my chair. We are packed in like sardines, and it is a really miserable experience, but people are determined to watch their kids and their grandkids. We all desperately want to do that. And is there anybody in this room who's been in those? And it's hard to even get in at all. You know, they're packed around the door, they're packed around, is there nobody else that's been in here? Yeah?
I'm not of this community, but when I come down, if it's like a rival game or if there's kids cheering but I don't know that it's like that.
I'm not
every
talking about the high school gym.
I know, but.
I'm talking about the
Elementary
kind of
stuff, too?
extracurricular. So in the Monticello gym, I've had the same experience watching the boys, and these are the younger kids' sports. But if we are spending tax dollars to build a gym and it's going to be multi-use for other events, then I feel like we're making a huge mistake by not having this gym. You know, let's learn from those gyms being too small. I feel like the one in Monticello, you know, for many things it's big enough, but there are lots of things that none of those gyms are not big enough for. And so this is the time to build a bigger space that people can watch and
But my question on your gym is, and I guess maybe Tyrell, I mean, the obvious answer is it's a gym, but what is its purpose as far as, is it to entertain your crowds, or is it a practice gym? Is it that's what I think we need to define a little bit exactly, is what will its full purpose be?
what all the things be used for, the things that our gyms in our county are already used for, and those are lots of events. And we're packed in there. I hope there's people online that are listening that will. And my next question is, when we made that decision in June, because we had the pressure of, if we don't make a decision right now, we won't be ready for a November submission for grant money to build this state. There wasn't that opportunity to let the public be part of this. But we were told, I believe at that meeting, there will be ample time and there will be lots of public comment time and public involvement in this. And to date, we haven't had public in general. We haven't had any invitation to the public. And this is almost, as Brian mentioned, buttoned down. And we've not involved our communities at all, unless they're listening unless they just kind of push on in. But we haven't done that, where we haven't involved them at all. And button down, that means, hey, decisions are made, community. We don't care what you think when it's buttoned.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation with Brian's team about this last week, about coming down and making sure that we have, I think, and Brian can speak to it more than I can, Julie may even, with Monticello, with how we had a community involvement meeting I think we held it at the auditorium, and I think we'd like to do something like that in January. That's our plan. We had a conversation with Brian's team about having that meeting to involve the community and allow for some feedback in that January meeting, where they could present these plans and present, where we're at to the community as a whole, and have a more public opportunity for everyone to kind of have that opportunity to view the plans and provide any comments and feedback that they'd like to at that time. So we've had some of those conversations. We haven't nailed down a specific date yet for that, but the intention is to hold that in January.
And is there I know everything costs money, and, the foyer here that's extra high, that's not necessary. Like a gym has to be tall. There's things like that maybe that are costing money it doesn't benefit academics, it doesn't benefit, the ball being able to go up there. So are there things like that we can, or I'm suggesting that we look at things like that so that we could save some costs there and make this gym an adequate gym because, again, hopefully we've learned, if you've tried to be at some of these other events in these gyms, they're just not big enough to get people in and be comfortable at all, I mean, to be absolutely miserable or to wait. I went to Monticello's last winter and we literally just had to wait in the foyer and kind of try to look around to watch the ball games. There was zero place to even stand, let alone.
And that's actually, that's probably, that is not the norm. That's probably because of the San Juan Monticello is what I would say. Because that gym's been there how long? And every time I go there, I mean, Julie, you're from there. I don't feel like it's.
I mean, there are
filled
two ball
capacity.
games going on. It's when you're using both gyms. It's when
Sure.
you're using the floors
But
of both gyms that.
When they've got double headers, so when they've got
Yeah.
girls and boys, yeah, and then San Juan, but on a normal game night.
Yeah, it's
No,
not.
and I'm not even talking high school games. That's what I'm talking, multiple use for
Right.
our facilities, for lots of other activities in the communities with wrestling tournaments and all these youth things. And this is a youth,
But I
you
don't
know.
feel like we're filled.
Board President,
Yes, Nelson,
let me jump in.
go right ahead.
Let's just give it to Tyrell. It sounds to me like there's still some time left if there's going to be some changes,
Sure.
if that's what Mary is suggesting. But I would like to ask a question to Brian.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering what kind of a mechanical is going to be used on this. Is it the same type that we have in Monument Valley for heating?
No, it's not. So in Monument Valley, it's a ground source heat pump system. Here, it's one of the things talking with the district and in maintaining the mechanical systems. They have, although I haven't heard that school in Monument Valley has had challenges, but I have heard that the school in Bluff has, because rather than the ground source system, it has boilers and chillers, and so there's some issues with the with water quality and other things that are happening. The issues just make it a little bit more challenging to maintain, right? So with this system, it's many small mechanical units that will be on the roof. So in Monument Valley, there's the heat pumps, and I would say there are many there too, right? One for every classroom. Here, those units would be on the roof. And so it's a little bit simpler to maintain system from what we're hearing from Kedrick and from the facilities group, and something talking to Red Mechanical, something that is on their end. They're looking at it as something that's easy to get, easy to maintain, easy to get parts for in the future and things like that. So it is a different system, Nelson. By the way, Nelson, it's good to hear your voice.
Okay, thank you. It's good to hear you and see you too. I'm glad you're continuing to build buildings facing the east entrance.
I learned that from our very first conversation. I never forgot it.
One more comment.
Oh,
One more
awesome.
comment, Mary. Let's not give the perception that buildings are only built by tax monies. We're going to have that public hearing next month with the federal impact aid. That's a huge chunk of money that goes into our school district. So I hope there are people out there that are listening, those that are non-Native Americans can come to this public hearing and have an input. It is not just for Native Americans. For years and years, it's just been Native Americans having input. It's for the whole district.
Federal impact aid.
Thank you.
Yes. Nelson, to clarify, the federal impact aid money comes to San Juan School District.
Okay,
But it is,
I'm going to
it's
interrupt
tax
this.
dollars.
I'm going to interrupt
That-
this because we're hitting 5:30.
Yeah.
And that is a discussion for another time. So, sorry, we'll rehash the whole impact date in January. So if nobody has any further questions
Can I
regarding.
just share
Absolutely.
something?
Yes, go ahead now.
I want to say, Tyrell, Brian, Clint, Todd, Clifford, all of you that are on that have been involved in this process, I have been so impressed with all the work that you have done. And I have to share, and I know Julie has been there, and Christy's been there, and others of you have been there, where we have been involved in meetings and discussions with stakeholders, including elementary teachers and community members, and they've shared input, and I feel like you have listened to them. That last meeting that we attended on Friday, how many times did we have that group of people cheering and feeling like they were heard?
Thank you, Nan.
I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm really grateful for that, and I know that you are trying to accommodate a lot of people, and Blanding community is a diverse community, and there is a lot of demands for that, but thank you. I just wanted to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So if there aren't any more questions, we will, Tyrell, you'll follow up with the public comment period. We appreciate all of you men for being on with us tonight, and thank you for your input, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and real quick, we're gonna have
Okay.
item number 10. Nelson, that is yours. Would you like to lead out with that? That will be the school board meeting location change suggested?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can. I would like to recommend that we go back to one of our campus to do our federal impact aid hearing. And I'm not exactly sure which location we'll be at. I think we'll be at Whitehorse.
We can, are you suggesting Whitehorse or Navajo Mountain or Monument Valley? Is anyone preference to either or?
I think any of them.
Either one, either any school on the river region.
Okay.
Where was the last one held that was in the river region?
I thought it was a Whitehorse.
I would
but-
suggest that we look that up and then do the other community, so that,
That would be, that was like 3 or 4 years ago. So,
but we have those records, so we can tell
so
where it was.
if someone can look that up during the break, and then I don't have any opposition to that. I think that is an action item, if we're all okay with that. It is. So, any comments about it? Okay. All right, we are going to take a break until 6 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. We welcome our public to this portion of our board meeting, and we actually have our San Juan Squared Recognition Awards to start with, which we get to nominate and recognize, or well, we don't nominate, but nominations have come in, and we get to recognize 2 individuals who have done a great job within our district and deserve that recognition. So, is it Jody Lee that is... Jody Lee, is she virtual?
It doesn't look like she's joined us. I texted her, but she didn't.
All right. Lahoma Cly is going to come up first, and we're going to recognize you. So you get to come clear to the front. I know, it's painful, but you get to do it. And we'll have Colleen, so if I come to the front, Colleen's going to do your recognition, and we'll move out of the way. And, pardon me? Yes, yes.
Share with us. So Lahoma, from Monterey Valley High School staff, Lahoma has been a rock star with the heritage language and unity programs, engaging a large number of students with traditional Navajo activities. She has helped coordinate and organize a sheep butchering demonstration, which we heard all about earlier, various Navajo song and dance presentations to our student body, and helped plan and conduct a spectacular Miss MVHS pageant. She worked many hours to ensure our students had great experiences. It is great to have her with their tireless efforts improving student learning on our team. Nominated by Don Gandy, MVHS principal. So here you are, Miss Lahoma.
Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, everybody.
We appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Yes,
I know. Yes, I am.
We want to read Jody so that we can present this to our faculty meeting.
Yes. Sure. So, Colleen's going to read Jody's nomination, even though she's not with us, and they will present it in faculty meetings. So, yep, just come right
To the front.
Yeah, I guess.
This one's for Miss Jody Lee Caddy from SJSD Elementary School. Q-tip teacher. Jody gives her heart and soul to her students. She is organized and energetic and willing to help teachers, staff, and students. We love our Miss Jody. Nominated by Denise Kiddo, previous TES principal. And also, Miss Jody's always willing to help out. She has a positive attitude when working with students. Her passion for learning and teaching students is obvious. Her smile is contagious and spreads joy to those around her. She's an essential part of our school and community. Nominated by Ms. Heather Amato, TES principal. Our award date is today. So, good job, Ms. Jody.
Okay. We now have citizens' comment, and so I'm just going to give a few guidelines regarding this. The participants may address the board on any item on the agenda or any other topic, and if the topic deals with individual employees or students, it cannot be discussed during the public comment. You may, however, request in advance to discuss your concerns with a member of our administration, most likely our superintendent. And the board's function is to listen to public comment, and it's not an interactive, so we listen to your comment, and then if you have questions or concerns, you're welcome to meet with the superintendent. So we have Shayna Palmer. Are you ready? Oh, and one other rule I forgot to tell you. I'll give you 3 minutes, and so when the 3 minutes up, I'll just stand up, and then you'll know. Okay. Or actually, we have a buzzer that's really loud. You will hear it. Yeah, you just come right up to the front to the mic so that we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hi. I am here because there's been kind of a lot of rumors about the elementary school, and I feel like everybody's like, when is it going to be built? Where is it going to be built? All of that stuff. And I was listening to the meeting notes that Eva sent me, and it sounds like it's based on if we get approved. There was like an application process that we don't have enough funds in our county, but it sounds like state funds will be covering that. So just, I don't know, there's just been a lot of rumors about that, and so to get cleared up in the public, at least in Blanding, would be really helpful. Another thing is I commented last year about this time about the need for more gym space and more. I feel like Blanding just doesn't have the facilities that we need or the size of facilities that we need for the extracurricular activities that we have. And RT did contact me back and said that there would be a gym attached to or associated with the elementary school. My concern with that is that will count as our third gym, and then all of the other communities will also need a third gym before we are to get like an actual gym that fits the size of our school. Because it sounds like to me that we would get another practice size gym when I feel like Blanding, when San Juan is at basketball games or any other function, there's just not enough space in that gym. Out of all of the gyms that I've been to in 2A, we definitely have the smallest gym, at least as far as what I've been to and seen. We do have the smallest gym, and we are also the only school that only has one high school gym. And I've been to quite a few, not every one of them. Another thing is the wrestling room. Our wrestling room is teeny tiny. I don't even know how those boys are doing so well because it's so small. But like even we were at North Sevier, and my little third grader is like, this is their wrestling room? Like, he could not believe it. And I understand that money is tight, but if we can get funding for those things, it would just be really sad if the money went for like a gym that, I mean, any gym is great. But if that's going to take place of like a bigger gym that would house everybody, that would be really sad. Anyways, those are my comments for that. But my other comment is having some structure set up in the district where the kids could learn on their own level. I feel like kids are tested so much, and I have a son who he's above grade level, he's tested all the time, and it feels like it's not a fight, but it's hard for the teachers to be able to let him learn on his level. They're like, yeah, we can put him up to grade level 4, but I can't help him during that time. So if it could be structured to where kids are tested, and instead of being on a grade based on age, that they are put in a
Thank you. And then you requested that the superintendent contact you, someone from the office, so they will make note and make sure that's done.
Okay.
Thank you. Eva, do we have any more comments? Okay, we'll just continue on with our agenda. I think what we'll do is we'll move into our consent and action items and then do closed session last. So if, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move down to our action items. So the first one will be, go ahead.
Do we not want to go into these other? or-
Oh. We don't need to.
We don't have any
No.
closed session, or we have nothing?
There is one item in closed session, and it's regarding personnel. Other than that, it won't affect our.
It's not an action
Our
item.
action items. So we can go on the action items. And then finish up with closed, so. All right, if we can get a motion to approve the CTE Stakeholder Survey 2023, 2024.
I move that we allow the CTE stakeholder survey for 2023, 2024.
Okay, motion by Steve, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. The next one is our Blanding Elementary School Land Trust Amendment, so I need a motion for that.
I move to approve the Blanding Elementary School Land Trust Amendment.
Okay, motion by Mary, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, our next action items is 2024-25 school calendar adoption. In that motion, if you will specify which option it is, that would be helpful. So if I can get a motion for that.
I move that option 1 be approved
For the 2024.
for the 2024, 2025 school calendar.
Okay. Motion by Steve, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposed?
Nay. And for the record, it's because I can't vote for a calendar where we come back after almost 2 weeks and start on a Friday. I will be real interested to see what the attendance is that day and effectiveness of instruction. But anyway, that's my reasoning. And I do very much appreciate the surveys that went out on that as well. So thank you for doing that. And I appreciate the people who participated.
Did you get the vote on that, Mary? Or I mean Eva? Okay. And our last one is a school board meeting location change. And just information, our last federal impact aid that we had outside the district office was in Monument Valley. So we could just go to Whitehorse. Nelson, do you have any comments about that? Because that kind of was your item.
No, I don't have any comments, but I would like to entertain a motion to change the school board meeting location to Whitehorse High School in the month of January 2024 for the federal impact aid hearing.
Okay, motion by Nelson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Colleen. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Do you want to hit the information items and then we'll go to close? Thank you.
So our next board meeting will be January 24th, and it will actually be at Whitehorse High School. We do have holiday break from December 21st through January 2nd for students, and then teachers do have a work day, so no school for students on January 2nd. USBA January Annual Conference will be January 4th through 6th, and Martin Luther King Day will be January 15th.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then our last item is to go into closed session for the discussion of personnel. So if I can get a motion.
I move to closed session to discuss personnel.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I need roll call. We'll start with you, Nan.
Nan Barton here.
Colleen Manali here.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
I never know.
Mary?
Oh, Mary Shumway, yes.
Nelson?
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Okay, we will give just a few minutes for our technology to get us set, and then when they're ready, we'll go in. Thank you.
Will we end after the closed session?
Yeah, then we'll be done, so.
Okay, I just had a really quick comment, if I can find my notes here, but it was to thank the teachers, personnel, administration, and the district for recognizing Native American Heritage Month of the month of November. We did have a lot of great events planned throughout the district. A lot of them I got to attend and learn a lot myself. So I just wanted to say if we can continue that through every month of November, every November, that would be great, because not only do I learn, but others who are non-native or who've never taught or lived near Native American reservation will also get to know the culture and therefore broaden their views, educate themselves, and have fun while doing it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, you just tell us when